Good morning, everyone. It's Sarah, and it's time for our live video chat. And I know the last 2 weeks we did them on Thursday, but we're going to get back into our schedule of having our live video chats over on the Posh Pooch Designs Facebook page, 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And again, it's Mountain Time because I live south of Denver. And hopefully we're back on our Tuesday schedule. And I know the last 2 weeks we did Thursday because Christmas was on a Tuesday and then New Year's Day was on a Tuesday. So we did Thursday. So we're a little bit out of sync, right? So now we're back on Tuesdays. And I wanted to share something with you. Check out this crochet hook. It's just a basic purple H hook. But it's my favorite one. I have had this purple crochet hook probably for 30 years. And it's like one of the first ones I ever bought. I think I bought it at a Kmart. Anyway, I love using it. It's my favorite one. And I lost it. And so I was checking everywhere I thought that I put it. And I like to keep it up here in my yarn room or yarn studio. Although I do take my projects downstairs sometimes to work on. And so I could not find it anywhere. Guess where I found it? They took my crochet hook and it was over there in their poofs. I guess I could have dropped it there, but I have noticed there's a few little teeth marks right around here. And you know, Maximo has lost most of his teeth. So I have a pretty good suspicion that it was Rosie. Well, good morning, everybody. I just thought I would share that with you. And another thing we forgot the last Thursday was to clink in. People were like, we didn't get to clink in. So I got me a nice big cup of coffee and everybody clink in. And if you don't know what clinking in is, it's just a way to say, hello, we are crochet crazy. Well, I'm so glad I see a lot of you already commenting. Let's see if I can, some of them have already gone off there, but I want to say good morning to everybody. Leslie, Dawn, Marlene, Alicia, Nicole, Vicky, Joy, Vicky, Dana, Caitlin, Tracy, Karen, Pat, Kimmy. Let's see, some of you have already, you're clinking in. Yes, Lisa, Ann, Mary, Tracy, Pat, let's see, make sure I got everybody, Joy Bell. And I'm so glad you're all here today. With everything being off kilter the last 2 weeks, I was so afraid that I wouldn't get it out there that it's Tuesday this week. We're back on our Tuesday schedule. And I have lots of fun things planned to talk about today. And one of the things I want to remind you is, I'm going to grab this here real quickie, is the yarn kit giveaway. Now, to be entered in the yarn kit giveaway, you need to go to last Thursday's video, either on Facebook or YouTube, and just make a comment which one you would rather have. Oh, I almost knocked over my coffee. The blue or the purple. And this is a kit that includes 28 ounces of yarn, the H hook with the ergonomic handle. Okay, and that's enough yarn for you to make the Grandtastic crochet along that we're going to do here 2019. All right, now we finished up our 2018 crochet along. The blanket's over there, and if you want to find that, just go to my YouTube channel and you can check up top in the playlist and you'll see it says Harmony Sample Blanket, and those stitches will always be there. They're always there for you whenever you want to do that blanket, or maybe you want to do a blanket in any one of those stitches. They're always there for you. All right. Now, we're going to be starting the Grandtastic crochet along. And you know, one of the questions that I get quite often is, can I block acrylic yarn, or do I even have to? And the truth is, you don't have to. The reason that I do is because when you're making squares, here's just the basic granny square. When you're making squares, sometimes they can be a little off kilter. And it makes it a lot easier when you're going to put them together if they're all the same size. Sometimes different stitches, or maybe you were pulling tighter that day than the other day, or maybe you were stitching looser, and so your squares aren't exactly the same size. And by blocking them, you can get them to be the same size. So you can block acrylic yarn, but do I have to? No. All right, I'm going to switch over to my top cam this time. And I've got over here, and I just want to show you what I do. Now, there are lots of ways to block, all right? But this is my favorite because I think it's the most easiest. And what I do is I lay down a clean towel. This is just one of my kitchen towels. And I get what's called a blocking board. And let me grab this one that's still in the package. Oh, that's sideways. And you can see it's loops and threads, so I get these at Michael's. And I think they're about $5 a piece. And they're really neat because they have like puzzle edges and you can hook them all together. And I have 4 of these, and I picked up 2 more because I want to make sure I have enough. And you can see it has the lines that are squares that are 1 inch, and that helps also. Now, you don't have to have a blocking board. You can use a thick piece of cardboard or any styrofoam or sponge board that you have. And one thing to remember is we are going to dampen this, so if you use cardboard, use a pretty thick piece of cardboard, and also so you can put your pins in. There are some other things that you can use. Some of the ladies in my crochet group use those play blocks that have alphabets on them that they used for their kids. And you can also find very inexpensive floor mats, as long as they are, clean, of course, and they're thick enough, whoops, almost dropped my pins, on the side so that you can put your pin in without it going through. All right, now the pins that I like to use are these, and these are the quilting pins. And one thing to remember is you want to make sure you get stainless steel pins, because if you get metal pins or just regular steel pins, or you're using some old ones from many years ago, they can rust, and you don't want any rust marks on your beautiful squares. All right, and I also like these because the end of the pin is nice and long. See how long that is? I like that. And so what you do is you put your square on. This is supposed to be a 6-inch square. Well, it's a little bit big. And so I'm going to push it in, fit it where I want it, and then I'm going to take this. And this is just a bottle with water in it. And some people will use a little fabric softener or a little white vinegar. I do not do that in my blocking process. If I want to soften up a blanket, I might put just a little bit, like maybe a teaspoon or tablespoon of fabric softener and white vinegar in the wash when I'm washing it. But when I'm blocking, I do not. And I'm not going to spray today because I don't want to get my table all wet. But what I do is I just spritz it. Okay? I don't soak and wet it. I just dampen it, would be a good way of putting it. And then I can shape it. And the truth is, you shouldn't put your pins in till after you've dampened your square. And then you ease it into the size that you want. If it's too big, you can push it in a little. If it's too small, you can stretch it out a little. And you place your pins in. And if you're doing a bigger project, you can hook your blocking boards together and fill up that whole space. I'm just showing you in the center so that you can see it. If I'm doing a bunch, I'll move this up to the corner and put them next to each other. You can also stack them. You can take, if you've got more that are the same, you can stack them like this and do several at once. I usually do this, and I don't do more than 3. And then I make sure that they're shaped right. And then once I do that, I set mine on my dryer to dry. You can set them out in the sun if it's a sunny day. Another thing you can do is set them next to your vent for your heater. But I would let them sit about 24 hours. That way they can dry thoroughly and they'll be shaped nicely. Now, There is another process where you dampen them and use a steam iron. And if you're really good at that and feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. I just don't want to do that because remember, if you overheat acrylic, it will burn. Okay? And because acrylic is basically plastic, you know, it really, you know, like a lot of fabrics, if you get it too hot, it will burn. And then you've ruined your hard work. And we don't want to ruin our hard work, right? We work way too hard to do that. All right. If, like I said, if you're comfortable doing the steam blocking, that's totally fine. I'm just not. That's why a lot of people will say they'll just throw their blankets in the washer and dryer. And my theory is this. I want what I'm making to last as long as possible. And I want to be careful with what I make because I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours making something and then it goes through the wash once and it's torn apart. That's heartbreaking to me because I put a lot of myself into everything that I make and I want it to be beautiful for the person that I'm giving it to. All right, so that, you know, that's kind of a preference. And I'm just put my chair back over here. And that's just my favorite way of doing it. And I can put 4 blocking boards together and set them on my dryer. And so that's a lot that you can set on there. If you live in an apartment where your dryer's downstairs, you can set it on a table near a window for sunshine. Whatever you want to do. But I would leave it set, whether it's on the dryer or just sitting in your bedroom on your bed, I would let it set for 24 hours. And like I said, you don't have to block acrylic, but you can because it just makes it easier for you to work with. All right. I get this question often and I never really thought about it because I block some things, but some things I don't. And it just depends on how it's looking, how the shape is holding up. A lot of times with stars for the Christmas tree or stars that are, you know, doilies and things like that, I will block. But if it's a shawl or a blanket or a wrap or a hat or something and it's laying really nice and I like how it looks, I won't block it. One thing you can do, and this is a question, a lady was making one of my chunky hats this week and she said, I must have a big old fat head because your hats never fit me. Well, I do kind of have a little top of my head. It's like my head is narrow around, but it's longer. And so the pattern wasn't working for her. And I said, well, you can go up a hook size or two, which works sometimes. You know, loosen up your stitches just a little bit, but measure as you go. And so she measured and she said, it still seems so tight. I said, get one of those styrofoam heads. Okay. You can dampen the hat and you can stretch it over that styrofoam head and leave it sit 24 hours. And that will help it stretch out a little bit. And it's not really blocking, but it just helps it, and then it dries just a little bit bigger, and you're training those stitches to not be so tight. And that's another way that you can do a little hat blocking is what I call it. And it does help, and that way the hat doesn't lose its shape because you're tugging and pulling on it. You've dampened it, and you slid it right over one of those styrofoam heads. But one thing to keep in mind about those styrofoam heads is they're actually made for wigs, and so they're going to be smaller than the average person's head. All right, so keep that in mind also if you're trying to block a hat. All right, Kimmy Ann says, I don't use my iron, I have a steamer. And that's a good idea also. And I do have a steamer. I picked one up almost 12 years ago when my daughter got married. I can't believe she's been married for 12 years. But anyway, when she got married, in order to steam her dress. And I do have one. I need to pull it out. That's a very good idea because that way the steam is doing its work and you're not putting that iron against your the squares. I was going to say fabric, but I guess it is sort of a fabric, right? Because you made a square, so it's a piece of fabric. All right, so I just wanted to cover that. And yes, you can block your squares. And like I said, if you're making a blanket and you want all your squares to be the same, and remember, we're doing a crochet along, so each month we're making a square. So you may be in a different frame of mind each month when you go to make them. And remember, your frame of mind, you know, affects your tension. And so you might be watching a scary movie and you're crocheting really, really fast. or you're watching a wonderful love story and you're crocheting nice and slow, or you're listening to really fast music or really intense music. And so those things, or even an intense situation, can change the tension. And so that's why when you're making squares or something you're going to piece together, it is a good idea to block those things. And I really wanted to cover that because we're getting ready to start our Grandtastic Crochet Along. And I'm very, very excited about the Grandtastic Crochet Along. And just to kind of give you an idea, I'm hoping to start it the third Monday. Okay, so that's, let's see, this is the first Monday, and then in 2 weeks. Well, on that Monday, I will make a video. I've already put the information on my blog. And if you go to my blog, and you can go find it here on my Facebook page, and it's also in the notes underneath the video on YouTube. And if you go to my blog, at the top of the blog, there's all these little tabs, and one of them says Grandtastic Crochet Along 2019. And you can click on that, and it will give you the information, crochet hook, yarn, just a little bit of what we're going to be doing. All right, and it doesn't have everything there yet because I'll be adding to it as we go. All right, so what we're going to do, hang on one second, I got a little tickle in my throat. Double clink to make up for last week. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting, all the squares are going to be 6 inches. And we're going to be starting with just a basic granny square. And I wasn't going to do this, but I got so many comments and requests. Please start with the basics so that I can learn a basic granny square. And remember, there are so many tons of ways to make granny squares. And there are so many different techniques that come to that end with the same project or the same progress. And so I'm going to be showing you the way that I do my granny squares that I think are the simplest way. And then as we go, each month we'll be getting more and more complicated. You know, we'll be learning how to make a full granny square, how to make a circle to a square, and all kinds of different things like that. And what you'll end up with is 48, because you're going to need to make 4 of each one, because we're going to be making a 6 by 8 blanket. 6 by 8 meaning 6 squares by 8. 6 across, 8 down. But you can make as many as you want if you want to make a much bigger blanket. And then once we get all 48 squares done, we're just going to mix them all up and make a gorgeous blanket. And it's going to really be considered a throw because it's not huge, but it's the best kind of blanket to sit on your lap when you're crocheting watching a movie. And of course, you can make as many squares as you want to and make it as big as you want to. So we'll have 12 different squares and we'll make 4 of each square or more if you want to. All right, so that's the Crochet Along for 2019. And when you start looking for it in the playlist, on the playlist in YouTube, it's the Grandtastic 2019 Crochet Along. All right, let's talk about a couple of new yarns. Now, this week I received these. This is the Hygge Yarn, and they sent me 3, so I've got a fun idea of what I'm going to do with these. And this is a 5. It's a little because of it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit chunky, and it looks like it's Hygge, doesn't it? But if you look underneath, it says Hygge. All right, so we'll have to learn about what is the Hygge, right? What is the Hygge lifestyle? So anyway, this is so scrumptious and soft. I can't wait to get busy on a project with this. The other yarn, I showed you this before, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about it. And this is the Go for Faux from Lion Brand. And I pulled some of it out, and I've been playing with it a little bit. And a lot of people are crocheting this and knitting it into balls. And I thought there's got to be an easier way because it is really frustrating and hard to knit this yarn or to crochet this yarn, both. It's hard. And I've been crocheting, you know, for over 40 years, and I was struggling with this yarn. It doesn't have any stretch. There's no stretch to it at all. And what it really looks like is they took sheets of the faux fur and just cut it in strips. And that's fine. But I've got another idea. I'm going to show you. This is a video I'm probably going to do tomorrow. And I'm going to show you another idea of how to make a wonderful faux fur. And you can make a bunch of pom-poms with one of these. And I believe this was $6.97. $6.97. when I saw them at Walmart and Michael's. It's the only place I saw them. And I bet Joann's has them because anytime I can't find a yarn, I swing over to my local Joann's and there it is. My Joann's has an amazing yarn section. Anyway, so I'm going to show you that. And you can make a whole bunch with the way that I'm going to show you from this one skein of yarn. All right, so we didn't get to do any videos on Friday. Unfortunately, I got sick. And I'm doing a lot better today. My medication's finally working on my ear. And so we did a video yesterday. And the video yesterday was this. And this is one of my older patterns. I think I wrote it in 2011 or 2012. I can't remember. And it's just one of our jar koozies. And it has 2 paw prints on it. And I wanted to show you what I'm using mine for. Puppy cookies. My dog's little cookies. And this is just a really neat project. Let me show you the one I did in teal. I put a piece of paper in there so you could see the paw print just a little bit better. There's the top one, and there's the bottom one. And these are really cool, and you can use them for a luminary if you want to. But I think that they're great to give to people that work like maybe at pet rescues or veterinary hospitals, or maybe training and learning in school to be a veterinarian, or just your friends that love dogs like we do, and cats. And it's just a little paw print. But the other thing is you could make these in school colors. I mean, if your school mascot's the Bulldogs or the Pumas or something like that, wouldn't it be fun to have one of these in your school colors and just use it for your pens or pencils or maybe your crochet hooks? Anyway, I just thought these were super duper fun. Here's the brown one again. And I put 2 paw prints, one down here and one up here. Okay, now this is done with just a 16-ounce mason jar with the small lid. You can see you can even use, I put a straw in this one, or a hole for a straw, so that you can even use it for your drinks. And so they're super duper fun. Well, one of the ladies said, I can't find any mason jars anywhere at all. And I said, well, you can use pickle jars or olive jars. There's some salsa jars, applesauce, different jars that are about this size that are 16 ounce. And most of them do have the smaller hole opening. And so I think there's even a peanut butter jar. And some of them are plastic. And so like this one here, this one's plastic, and this one is glass. And so you can find them all over the place. Now, I have found them sold individually at Michael's, at Hobby Lobby, and Joann. And they have different size jars. So just so you know, if you can't find a mason jar, check your pantry or your refrigerator, and you might have a pickle jar or a mayo jar that would work just perfect. And then you can recycle it. So, and you know me, I love to find things and reuse them for wonderful, neat things. Okay, so I do, just for what's going to be going on in the future. We started, like yesterday was an older pattern that we redid, and we're going to be doing some of our older video, redoing some of those, and we're getting ready to head into some Valentines and some heart type things and stuff like that. Lots of fun going on. So get prepared for some fun. And I'm going to let you go, but I want to remind you, and I am still getting some comments and videos about people who gave Christmas gifts or Hanukkah gifts or Kwanzaa gifts or just gifts in the holidays that were not received well because they were crochet items. And I really want to encourage you, don't stop crocheting, because, and I understand those things hurt because it's happened to me. And we put so much of ourselves into it because it's an art. And we speak through our art. And so what I really want to encourage you is don't let those that don't understand our art depress you. Don't let it pull you down. Donate those things, like I said last week, to cancer societies, St. Jude's, Shriners. There's lots of good charities out there. The hospitals where they have the NICUs and things like that. Make some phone calls. Look online. There's wonderful places to donate your items, because when you're making something like crochet, we do put a lot of ourselves into it. And so I want to leave this with you. Like my sign says over there, keep calm and crochet on. Even in your worst days, there's always crochet. I thought that was awesome. So I want everyone to have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye now.